With the new year fast approaching, I'm going to share 10 tips that will work to improve your game in 2023. The first thing that I want to touch on is using the arena as an advantage. Now when I say use the arena as an advantage, what I really want to see is players not aerialing for a ball that is close to the wall. A lot of times I'll see the ball be like somewhat close to the wall like this, and instead of driving up the wall and then jumping out to play the ball, I see players just go close to the wall and then jump up an aerial instead. By aerialing, you use a lot more boost, and additionally, you also take yourself out of the play a lot easier. If your wheels are on the wall until you jump up to challenge the ball, you are able to come back down the wall and you're able to stay in the play in case the situation changes. If you aerial, as soon as you jump, that's it, you're out of the play. So if something changes while you're in the air, you are not able to react to it as easy as you could if you were on the wall. Moral of the story, if you can use the arena to get to the ball easier, keep yourself more involved in the play, and use less boost, always utilize it. Now the second thing we want to talk about is being aware of the situation you're in, and making decisions appropriately based on that situation. And there's two situations that really work to point this out. So let's say, for example, that your teammate is cutting across the opponent's net, heading in this direction. And the ball is sitting over here in your opponent's corner, and you have the next touch on the ball in the opponent's corner. Now in this situation, you more than likely have an opponent sitting in the net right around here, waiting to respond to the touch that you get. Now one of the most common mistakes that I see, especially in 2v2, is players just driving forward and hitting this ball right in to the corner, causing it to bounce mid. Now this is a great thing to do if your teammate, instead of being over here, is actually here. Reason for this being, of course, if this ball comes across, they are right here to attack it. Of course, if they are instead over this way, sending this ball mid just results in a free clear for the opposition. And of course, after making this touch, you would then be stuck here, this guy's still rotating to get this boost, and now wherever their other teammate is, the orange team now has an absolutely free counterattack right in to a wide open net. If your teammate is rotating out of the play and is not in a situation to have the next touch on the ball, don't play the ball to a spot as if your teammate was there to play it. The second part of recognizing your situation is not diving in on a play when you're last man back. And we're going to see a couple examples here from my own game where I failed to do this correctly. So if we roll this forward, we're going to see this ball get kind of in an awkward position right here on the sidewall. And from my perspective, I'm thinking, hey, he is kind of in an awkward spot. Maybe I can go challenge this ball and beat him to it, and we can kind of get this counterattack going. Unfortunately, I underestimate the speed at which he's going to recover, which means he is then able to poke the ball over the top. Of course, since my teammate was the first to challenge this play, and now the ball was over the top of our last man, they now have a free net to shoot at. We move forward now in the exact same game. Literally only a few seconds have gone by after the next kickoff, after we had conceded the first goal. And we'll see here that my teammate is going to challenge this air dribble coming off of our opponent's back wall, which is totally fine. Madrid gets over the top of him, and in this situation, I'm thinking once again, hey, I can probably beat him with that ball because he looks kind of awkward in his recovery. But right around now, I should realize there's absolutely no way that I'm beating this guy to this ball. I should turn around so I can actually defend the net, or put myself in a spot to block this touch coming out from Madrid. Instead of leaving myself in an intelligent situation where I can impact the play, I do this. Because, you know, what could be more intelligent than diving in as last man back and giving your opponent a free net 2 times in a row, literally within 30 seconds of each other. The point I'm trying to get across is there is very few times that you should really be hard committing as last man back unless you know for an absolute fact that you are winning the ball cleanly. If you have a clean touch on the ball, absolutely go for it. If you have no other choice but to force a 50-50, go for it, but make sure you're getting an actual 50-50. Don't dive in on things like this where the biscuit ain't worth risking it, because it leads to a lot of goals being given up like this one that really shouldn't be. Next up, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite thing in Rocket League. That's right, it's time to discuss small pad rotation. A classic piece of advice that I'm sure you've heard many times is that you need to pick up the small pads of boost on the field because the big boosts aren't always easy or convenient to go to, and they might not even be there. So everyone knows that's something that they should do more of. The question is, how exactly do you train yourself to be able to do that more? Well, there's two things that I can think of. Number one, and something that was kind of useful for me, is you can go into a ranked game, or a casual game, any kind of game really, and tell yourself that you are not going to go collect the big boost. You are only going to rely on the small pads on the field. And this will force you to utilize these small pads in your rotations around the field, because rotations are pretty much built off of where these pads are. They're in a pretty natural spot actually. Now, forcing yourself to collect small pads is all well and good, but it doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you're not able to pick them up without looking at them. So what you can do to practice this is in free play, you can go into the settings and you can take off unlimited boost. So what this will do is it will actually expend boost in free play. So now what you're going to do is you're going to turn on ball cam and you're just going to practice driving to all the small pads. Through all of them, just around the field, because this is going to force you to be able to do it without being able to see them. It really does help you to be able to move around the field just relying on the small pads. It allows you to stay in the play and not be as reliant on the big boosts in games. Next up, we want to talk about paying attention to what our opponents are doing. So many people are tunnel visioned on the ball and the ball only during matches. Maybe they'll pay attention to teammates here and there, but pretty much all their eyes are on is the ball. Now you can run into a couple of problems with this, whereas you can't see what your opponents might be planning on doing or how they might be planning on challenging you if you don't keep your eye on them. And what I'm going to show you is a perfect example of me doing this poorly right here. So this ball is very quickly moving across the field and Dazarin here is following it across. Now I'm going to get a touch right here that's going to pop the ball up slightly into the air. Now, of course, when the ball goes up in the air, your ball cam follows it upwards, and you lose a lot of vision of what's going on around you on the ground. So you'll see the ball will pop up, and now I completely lose vision of what the opponents are doing. Now, Dazarin could be literally jumping in right now to challenge this ball, and I would have no idea, because I'm just staring up at the ball, really intent on what it's doing, even though all it's doing is floating in the air. It's really not doing a whole lot, and I don't really need to focus on it that hard. If I were to just take my right stick, my beautiful, beautiful right stick, and just tilt it upwards, I would be able to see exactly what my opponents are doing. So if we roll this forward just a little bit, we'll even slow it down here, we'll see the camera comes back down, and even right here, I can see Dazarin is not in a position to play this ball right now. That's fantastic. I actually can make a play on this. But unfortunately, instead of identifying, okay, I have time, I should cut into this ball so I can make sure I don't get immediately challenged and can actually get the ball moving in the right direction for us, I just wait, I take this really wide angle, and I invite Dazarin, who actually is probably watching exactly what I'm doing, to cut in on this ball and chip it right around me. Now, let's take a quick look at a moment in this same game where I actually do a good job of keeping an eye on the opponents and recognizing where I can play the ball around them. So we're going to keep it in slow motion here, and right off this kickoff, we're popping the ball up into the air dribble. So as my camera pans down, I can see Kaylee there on the ground, so I know that I want to keep this ball high in the air. I don't want to allow it to come back towards the ground, because that's where she's currently covering. So we keep this ball high up. I now see Dazarin entering the frame. Of course, he's now behind my car, but I see him also on the ground, so I know, okay, I have two people in net that I'm going to want to beat, so we need to try to get it in a spot that puts it around both of them. Kaylee's still stuck on the ground, so I know that it's going to be really hard for her to get up to challenge this ball at this moment as long as I keep it pretty high in the air. With Dazarin approaching so aggressively from the right-hand side of the goal, I want to try to keep this ball as far to the left as I can. So this last touch is going to be built to get the ball over Kaylee and then keep it going towards the left side of the net. So Dazarin has to stretch as far as possible to make this save. We put the ball in just far enough a place that Dazarin can't reach it, and it ends up being a goal. And that's the difference that keeping your eye on your opponents can make. If you can see where they're coming from, how they're trying to defend you, you can identify where you need to put the ball to take them out of the play. This is one I don't hear talked about a whole lot in a general sense, but you really do want to utilize as many different cameras in this game as you can. Now, obviously, we all know that when we go to dribble, we turn ball cam off. That is something that we're all aware of, because if you don't, you end up dribbling like that, and it looks absolutely terrible. But what a lot of people don't talk about is when else you should really be flipping between car cam and ball cam. What I generally like to say is, as long as I am actively attacking the ball and it makes sense to have ball cam on, I will have ball cam on. The second that I am ready to leave the play, so maybe I come over here and I pop this ball out, I'm going to turn ball cam off and see what other opportunities I can find. Maybe it's a demo, maybe it's stealing the opponent's corner boost, maybe it's just rotating out. Once I make the decision on what I'm going to do, I will turn ball cam back on. So the whole sequence would look something like this. Maybe I'm dribbling the ball into the opponent's corner, ball cam's on, I flick it up like that, I go for demo, I go for boost steal, ball cam's back on, and then I can turn around and repeat the process. Chip the ball, go for boost steal, ball cam back on because I'm going in a straight line, and it looks a bit like that. So that's generally the flow that I like to go for. As soon as I'm done playing the ball, I'll turn ball cam off and look for whatever opportunities I can find, and then once I'm moving in a straight line and don't need to see what I'm driving towards anymore, ball cam will go back on so I can identify what's happening with the play. In short, you do not need to be addicted to ball cam. There is several times during a game that car cam is the ideal camera that you should be in, so you should not be in ball cam the entire game, and if you are, you should consider flicking it off every now and again. You never know what opportunities you've passed up if you can't see that they're there. The next thing we want to talk about is not being scared to go for things. You can spend all the time you want in training packs, free play, workshop maps, anywhere you can imagine, training mechanics. But if you're always too afraid to go for things in a game because you're scared of what might happen if you mess it up, you're never going to get comfortable using them in actual game situations. There's just no way to replicate having a defender actually challenge you at game speed in training. So if you're concerned that you might concede a goal by going for a certain type of mechanic, don't be. The results of this one match that you're playing is not worth preventing yourself from improving further. In a year's time, you won't remember if you won that game or not, but if the amount of work you put into training a mechanic pays off in an actual game, that you for sure will remember. Next up, I want to talk about setting goals for individual games. Obviously, we all have that dream rank that we're trying to achieve. We're all trying to get better. We've all said that 100 times. The goal of every Rocket League player is to improve, obviously. However, for a lot of players, the goal of individual games is not to work towards getting better. It is instead to win that individual game. And unfortunately, when you try super hard to win an individual game, you often lose sight of doing the things that can help you actually improve overall. As I said earlier, you're not going to remember the results of a game you played a year ago, but the work that you put in to improve during that game a year ago is what led to you being in the position you are now. So in every game you go into, set a goal of something you want to work on. Maybe you want to work on boost pathing, maybe you want to work on boost management, maybe you want to work on controlling the ball better. Obviously you don't want to force these things into the flow of the game. If you don't find yourself in a position to go for a flip reset, don't force it into the play just because that's something that you want to try to work on. But a lot of things can be consciously thought about without ruining the flow of the game itself. If I want to work on boost pathing, that's something I can do without inhibiting the flow of the game. If I want to work on keeping possession of the ball better, that's something I can work on without inhibiting the flow of the game. So find things that you can work on, that you can target in individual games, that will gradually lead you towards being a better player. Remember, Rocket League is not about immediate results, it's about continued improvement. Next up, I believe it is important for you to have a training routine. You basically need something that will set you on the right track when it comes to training, so you're not just wandering around free play and training packs aimlessly. Training routines are a great way to work on a variety of things in Rocket League. For a lot of players, they might say, oh yeah, I spend a lot of time in free play, but they actually go into free play and they just work on flip resets for 30 minutes, and they don't actually do anything overly useful that's going to help them in the grand scheme of the entire game. By having a training routine, you can keep yourself focused and on track to make sure that you're actually training things that are useful for your current gameplay level and rank, and not things that look cool, though 1 out of every 20 times you can pull them off, but never actually help you get any better overall. It can be quite frustrating to feel that you've put so much time and effort into training just to find out that you were training the wrong things all along. The last training tip that I can give you guys is to analyze your own replays. I have preached for so long that analyzing your own replays is one of the best ways to improve at this game. The faster you can identify your weak points and where you make mistakes, the easier it is for you to fix those things in the future. If you can be brutally honest with yourself and point out where you're falling short, you can target those areas in your training to help yourself improve. But if you never look at your own gameplay and never point the finger at yourself to show yourself where you're making mistakes, you're never going to be able to help yourself improve the way you'd like to. Wrapping up this list is probably the most obvious thing anyone has ever said, ever, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and that is to remember to have fun. Rocket League, if you didn't know, is a video game. It's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to give you a fun experience. If you ever identify that you are not enjoying yourself and not having fun, that means it is time to call it a night and get off the game. Please, for the love of all that is holy, avoid tilt queuing. There is nothing worse than already having a bad night and making it worse by continuing to try and try again to make yourself play well. If you're not having a good day, just call it, it's not worth it, and you're not going to have any fun in that situation. Rocket League is a game. Don't take it too seriously, it's not the end of the world. Try as much as you can to keep your mentality light, keep yourself level-headed, and enjoy the ride as you go along. That just about wraps it up for these 10 tips for improvement in 2023. If you guys think I missed anything or have any questions or comments about anything I've listed, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Of course, if you guys enjoy videos like this and other videos I have produced, please consider clicking that bright red subscribe button right down below this video. It really does help me out a lot more than you guys realize, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.